Alrighty, happy Sunday. Welcome to week 47. Wow. That means there's only 5 weeks left this year. You know that, right? So if you're not ready for the new year and for December and all that comes with it, you're running out of time. You know, when we have these late Thanksgivings, it does seem like we have to rush and rush and rush and rush. So, well, that's how it is, but we'll all make it through. So I hope you all have are having a great weekend. Today we are going to draw our cards, see what we're going to make this week. And we're also going to show how to make toggle clasps. If you have wire and you're doing a project and you don't have, hey Lorraine, and you don't have a clasp handy, we're going to show you how to make one. So, you know, you can make a lot of stuff, you know, without buying clasps. If you have wire, you can make closures for your jewelry. You know, sometimes it's easier to use the ones that are store-bought, but I'm going to show you how to make a toggle clasp just because I think it's a good skill to have in case you want to make something unique for your project. Okay. So it is Thanksgiving week, which also means it's Black Friday week, as I'm sure you've seen all the sales that started like the day after Halloween, right? For some places, but that's okay. Give them props, right? Saturday is also Small Business Saturday, so I encourage you all this, you know, Christmas season to support small businesses. That doesn't just mean me. That means, you know, support your local artisans, your local small shops and stuff. Because, you know, small businesses is really what makes this country work. You can get cheap stuff from the big ones, but, you know, sometimes it's nice to throw a little, you know, support the way of small businesses. But anyways, so honor that we are going to do a sale. So I think I'm going to do 20% off of all my cards, kits, bead mixes. That's pretty much all I sell is cards, kits, and bead mixes, right? And you will get those that order between now and I don't have my calendar in front of me. I don't know. Let's do December 8th, okay? Which will just go with me here. You'll get 20% off your order and you will get a free gift. It's gonna be a little surprise free gift. That's what we're gonna have. So you can either order directly from me or you can order through our website. The website is in the links of all our pages, and when we turn the camera over, I will show you our usual thing for our website. I will put a code on the site. It's not there yet, so don't rush over there. I think for the website, we will use code THANKS20, okay? So it'll be thanks, THANKS, in all capital letters, 20. So that'll give you 20% off your order. So I will get that up on the website later today. All right. So, hey, Veronica. Good to see you. All right. So today, like I said, I'm going to draw cards. And then we're going to show how to make a couple toggle clasps. So let's get this flipped over and get started. All right. So for starters, here is our website. And let me sorry. was not prepared. All right. And if you use code THANKS20, you'll get 20% off and you get a free gift with your order, okay? I do not have a minimum for that offer, so there you go. All right, so desert-cat-creations.square.site. Thanks 20% off and free gift. And like I said, I don't have the code active at the moment, but give me, I'll try to have that by later today. All right, so let's draw first, and then we will do our, I'm going to zoom out a little for the cards, but then we're going to, like I said, make some toggle clasps, okay? So, let's see what we are going to make this week. All right, so for all you new to Bead Stash Challenge, we are a set of decks of cards that will help boost your creativity. It'll make you make things that you never even would have considered, because it happens to me all the time. So it currently consists of 5 decks. We have deck 1, which is the starter deck, which is sort of a general, jewelry making, things that most people would have in their bead stash, and, just some general challenges to boost your creativity a little. We also have the color deck, which adds our used cards and in all things color. So it helps you add colors to your designs, especially if you're like me and love certain colors and you tend to buy a lot of things in certain colors. That really helps me get out of my comfort zone a little bit and make things. We have the non-jewelry and findings deck, which is also helps you use all those findings, and it also has you make things. Non-jewelry things include things like our little cactus sculptures, our ornaments, or sun catchers, whatever you want to use it for, that we made. Those kind of things are non-jewelry items, okay? Keychains. So all of that stuff is in there, and it, like I said, it gets you to remember to use things like charms or metal beads, those kind of things. Our other 2 decks are sort of themed decks. So there's the Sun and Sea deck, which does have all sorts of stuff. It's beachy, summery, things like that. And then we have our Desert Southwest deck, which is just that, the Desert Southwest. So think Arizona, New Mexico, Southern California, some parts, Texas. There's a little bit of that in there. And it's all about the culture, the scenery, kinds of flora and fauna you would see in the Southwest region. So those are all for sale on our website, as well as you can order directly through me by commenting on a post or sending me a direct message. I can also help guide you if you're unsure what makes sense for you. So that's our deck. So let's see what we're going to make. Did I already shuffled these? I'm sorry. I'm a little slow today. We had rain all day yesterday, and I feel like my brain is still foggy from all that moisture, but, it really needed it. We had hail the other day, but it's been a nice change. Oh, look, we're going to make an ornament. Perfect timing, since it is ornament season, right? So, how many of you, do any of you out there put up your tree before Thanksgiving? Okay, our next cards we're going to do are our used cards. So, what the used cards are is this is what we pull out of our bead stash. Or if you don't really have a bead stash yet because you're new, things you're going to go purchase, right? So you can do your project. So in our ornament, we are going to use yellow. So that card is from our color deck, right? We're going to use stretch cord in our design. Interesting choice for making an ornament, but you know what? I've made stretch cord work in a lot of things. And we are going to use gold beads or metal. So we can use anything gold. So it doesn't have to be like, you know, we could use gold wire, we could use gold beads. It doesn't have to be metal. You could have gold plated beads. Anything, just something in your design has to be gold. Okay. So that is also from our deck. So the last thing we're going to go through is our challenge deck. Now, I have all 5 of the decks shuffled together, but I pull out the cards as I use them. So I have recently reshuffled the use deck and the make deck, which is why there's a fair amount of cards. I have not recently reshuffled the challenge deck. So if you use all 5 decks, you have more than 52 challenge cards to go through take you more than through the year. All right. So we have to make a design with at least 5 different components. So our components, you know, that can be beads, that can be wire, it could be jump rings, it could be head pins. It just basically 5 unique items need to go into your design. So since I have to use stretch cord, that is one of my designs, or one of my components. I have to use yellow, so something will be yellow, something will be gold. All right. So that's what we are going to do. Now, since Thursday is Thanksgiving, I am not going to try to, you know, enjoy myself, probably sitting around watching football when I'm not cooking. So I think I don't know. I still haven't made up my mind. I think I'm going to do it Friday, quite honestly. I think we'll do it Friday. So Friday at noon, we will make an ornament, all right, using these cards. So you wait until the week before Christmas? Okay, I just have to wait till December. So sometime after, you know, December 1st or later, whatever is practical. But we haven't put up a full tree since we got kittens. Might try it this year. My cat that we lost earlier this year, he was the one that would have messed with it the most. So we'll see. We may do that. All right, so toggles. So I should remind you, we made a fun bracelet with a hook clasp on Thursday. And I just want to show you a few examples of machine-made toggle clasp. You know, if you're a metal person, you can certainly make your own toggle clasps easily enough. But we're going to show you how to do it without soldering. So just to show you, like, here's one, and it's not round, so you have that option of making something that's not a circle, because typically, you know, you have some sort of loop. You have to have some sort of open thing and then a bar. And you'll notice, like, this one, this is a really secure clasp, okay? Because look how big this toggle is. There is no way that is sliding out on its own, okay? Oh, that's cool, Mara. I kind of knew you had a specific day, so. Here's just another example. This one's small, but it has, you know, a flower on it. And this toggle's not quite as big, but you'll see when you're shopping for toggles or making toggles that your toggle bar has to extend beyond the widest part. You know, if you hold it across the widest part of the loop or whatever you're putting it through, trying to hold this to where you guys can see it. It has to extend beyond the bar, or beyond the edges, okay? And the farther it extends, the more secure it's going to be. So if you ever go to buy one and the toggle bar is not long enough, I would skip those unless you're going to do something to make the toggle bigger. And these come in all sizes, so here's a little tiny toggle. And that one's just plain, but it's twisted. All right, so let's look and see some examples, and then we'll make something. So I showed this the other day. This was one I made where I used a double loop, and then I used some either 24 or 26 gauge, probably 24. I don't think I have 26 gauge in copper, although I might, to wrap it. And then I made this toggle bar, which I wire wrapped some beads onto just to add some color. You know, sometimes you love that chunk of metal from your clasp, and other times it's nice to have, you know, a little color. So in this case, if I was making something with this kind of aqua-y color, I could use that toggle clasp, all right? So I was messing around yesterday because I wasn't sure I could make like a small toggle easily, but I made this one. And, you know, they don't get a whole lot smaller than that. And then we just have this toggle bar that goes on it. And you'll see if I lay it across my, the widest part there, it extends beyond that. So I'm going to show how to make that one. That one's fairly simple. I'll separate them so you can see what. Okay. And then the other one that I made, oh, I showed you guys this one before when I was demonstrating that. So you have to make sure your loop is big enough for this to go sideways. So if you're, you know, if you're wanting to put something ornate here, just make sure you have a big enough loop. Okay. And if you made like an oval, you know, you could probably make that work. And there's no reason you can't make this an oval. You just have to make sure the bar itself is longer than the widest part. And I would make the oval go, I would make the oval go this way. So maybe we'll show an oval. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Oh, and then the other one I was kind of playing around with. So this one, I made the bar, and then on the top part of the bar, so it's the same size as this one, or same style as this one, where I just bent the wire. But what I did is I put beads all across that, the top. And then I just used some wire to give it some extra strength. I wire wrapped in between the beads and around the bottom, okay? And then for the ring, which if I was going to make this with thinking about what I was doing, for this one, I just wire wrapped beads onto the outside. So I know my inside is big enough. Now, if you accidentally made your toggle bar too small, you could wire wrap some beads to the inside and make your circle smaller, your opening smaller, so that your toggle would work. So just keep that in mind. So the main thing you got to make sure is your opening is, big enough that your toggle can go through sideways. Okay, so the length from wherever it connects to the bracelet or necklace, whatever, to the top there has to fit through your loop. Your bar has to be long enough that it sticks out beyond the edges of the widest part of your whatever opening you're trying to put it through. Those are the main two things to remember when you're making these clasps, okay? Now, I would recommend when you're making clasps to use 18 gauge wire, but you can use 20 gauge, especially if you're going to do like these beaded designs. So this one I made with 20 gauge wire. Now, I also harden my wire. I use a bench block, and I hammer it so that it doesn't, so that it stiffens it. I did that even on this small one, okay? And you'll want to do that. You know, if you don't have a bench block, but you have a hammer, you can carefully hammer it on some surface. You just have to be gentle. You don't have to have a block. Just don't hammer so hard that all your beads go flying off your desk. Okay. All right, so let's start with something really basic. So you can also, you know, the clasp we made the other day, we put a wire spiral on. You could do that on your clasp. You just need to work hard on the stuff underneath first, okay? So I don't think I'm going to do the spiraling today because that takes a little bit of time. But let's pull out what I have here. We're going to start with some 18 gauge. I don't know why I have two sets of 24 gauge around here. So I'm just going to use natural copper wire. You know, when I've had this for a while, so you can tell from the, but when I'm practicing or trying new things, I tend to not use craft wire because it's a little more expensive. I tend to use raw copper. Now, I bought this at a craft show, so it's certainly acceptable wire. But just keep in mind, if you're not sure about it and you don't want to waste things, use the cheapest wire you have. That said, some of the cheap wire, in fact, I made the little tiny clasp out of this. It's just cheap 18 gauge wire. Now, I certainly wouldn't use this for ear wires, but you know, it's probably fine for a clasp, but it's very soft, so you will have to hammer this, and I wouldn't make a big ring with it. This is not, this is really, you know, really not designed for jewelry. If you're doing wrapped loops or something, that'd be fine, but all right, so let's start with, we're just going to make the basic one. And you can make your ring go either way. I'm putting it up just to, but like I said, it can go either way. So we will not worry about that. And you can always twist it if you need to change it. Okay. So I like to start with the loop first because, you know, it's easier to make the toggle afterwards, I think, than the loop afterwards. So the first thing I'm going to do is make the small loop that's going to connect to, you know, the rest of your design. So we do our 90 degrees, and then you just make sure you do a big enough loop that, you know, you can connect something to it. We're just wrapping that around. Now, you know, 18 gauge is a little stiffer, so you do need a little help. then I hold on to that and push that edge around. Since it's such a short wire, I am going to grab my pliers and pull it. Basically pulling it around, and then I'm tucking it. I should have made that a little bit longer. All right. It went all the way around, which is the important thing. All right. I can tuck that in more later. All right. So then I have to decide, you know, I don't want a whole lot of room between that. And like I said, so we're just going to, on this one, it doesn't matter though. So if I wanted to, I could go ahead and I could put like a bead on there. I had some little flower beads, but I don't know if the hole's big enough. Yeah, I won't do it for this one. All right, so like I said, I got that loop. Now, because this is the part that doesn't really matter, I can just make that one as long or as short as I want, okay? But I'm going to, all right, I also recommend having some sort of a mandrel. I love the 6 size mandrel. It works great. If you want something bigger, there are mandrel pliers that Weber's sells. I think these two are a good size. But with, you know, the gauge of wire we're using, I'm not going to make it much bigger. All right, so I will wrap this around the biggest one. So sticking that in between, and then we are just wrapping it. And then you just have to move to finish the circle. Okay, so I have that circle there. And then I am just going to finish that as a wrapped loop, okay? Grab the correct pliers. So this is 18 gauge. Having a little extra support is good. All right. Okay, so we've got that. Let's tuck that wire in. Janelle, we're just getting started. We're making toggle clasps today. I know I'm still missing other people's shows because of the time change. All right, so we have got our loop that we are going to use for our toggle. Now, since I'm using 18 gauge and this is fairly stiff 18 gauge, I don't necessarily have to work hard on it, but I am going to go ahead and do that. So if you have a little bench block, I love this little tiny one. I found it somewhere. It's great for just the small projects. I have a big one too. And I'm just gently tapping that. I'm going to flip it over. Now, if you wanted, you could use the back of your hammer and you could add a little texture just to make it a little more interesting. And then I'm also going to hammer the ring, although it's not as not really required, okay? So, and then I'm going to make sure my wire is tucked in there nice and tight. Now you can You can do the center if you want, but there's no need to do where you've got the wrapped part. Okay, so we have our loop for our toggle. Now we got to make our toggle bar. All right, so I like to, rather than guess, I like to work off the spool. So the first thing I'm going to do on here again is I'm going to make the loop that attaches to my design. So we're just doing a standard wrap loop here. You know, I'd probably try to make it about the same size loop as on the other side just to make it look good, but probably as long as it's close enough, nobody's gonna be paying attention to that, right? Because the rest of your design is gonna be so gorgeous. They're not gonna notice that the loops are slightly off, right? My feeling is if you get somebody that starts noticing those kind of things, then they should probably stick to store-bought. Okay. So we got that loop. Now we need to make sure. So we're going to have to make this pretty snug. So I am going to bend the wire right at the top there. And I am just bending it out 90 degrees. Don't worry about what direction your thing is going. But I can, you know, put that in there. See that it will fit through. Now, so I want to put it in the center. I guess this, I should probably. Okay. So as I'm making this, so I want that, and then I'm going to hold this way, and I need to go out beyond. So right where my fingertip bar is goes beyond that. So I am going to then put the pliers right there. I'm using flat nose pliers here, and I am just flipping it over so that it's going the other direction. It's a lot like when we make ear cuffs, okay? And then I'm just gonna squeeze those together because I want it nice and snug. All right. Now you could use a ruler at this point, but I am just going to hold it up to my design. I am going to eyeball it and say right there is where I want this to go. And now I'm going to bend it down and back towards the center, okay? And again, I'm going to squeeze it tight. So now it's headed back that way, right? And now I'm going to do just a quick wrap. Now, you could wrap over the whole thing if there's not enough room, or you could just do, you know, a once around type wrap. And right now, you know, this wire is kind of soft, so I am going to hold it while I wrap with my other hand. Janelle, you probably can't do this right now with your 18 gauge wire. All right. And I'm actually going over the other, where the other wrap was, but That's just so I can get it more secure. Let's clip it. And I am going to squeeze that. I'm trying to tuck, but anyways. All right, so here we have our bar. So let's see if it fits through. Does it fit through this ring? It's very tight, so I've got a couple of choices here. And one, I can try to tighten this up. It's very crooked at the moment, which is another reason why I like hammering it, but which we'll do. So let's see, does it go through? It does go through if I go this way. So what I might want to do is, like I said, just barely. So let me use my flat nose. I'm going to put my pliers on the outside, and I'm just going to barely squeeze. So I'm making it a little bit of an oval. And that's going to make it go through easier. And actually that also helps it because now my my bar goes even further out, right? So that's what it's going to look like. So let me just hammer this because it's very crooked. Make sure you don't hammer your fingers. All right. So there we have our toggle clasp. So as long as it pulls through, it would end up looking like that. Now, if you don't like that open space, you could put some beads across the top. Just make sure they don't extend over the top, okay? So if you wanted to add some color to this, you can put beads along one side. You could probably do both sides, quite honestly. I'd probably only do one because I would have to think too hard about doing two. But like I said, you just don't want them to stick up there because otherwise it won't fit through the loop, right? So let's make another one, but this time let's put beads on it, okay? So I think I'm going to make it a little slightly bigger. I guess I'm running a little late, but I started a little late, so all right. So Janelle, you missed the beginning. I am for Black Friday and Small Business Saturday and all, I am going to run a 20% off all my products sale. And you get a bonus free gift of my choosing. With orders between now and the 8th of December. And I will be putting a code on the website if people want to order there, or you can order directly from me. Those that are used to ordering directly from me, it's fine. the code for the website is thanks20, and it'll be on there later today. Okay. All right, so we got that. This time I actually am, I think, going to see if I can add beads to this. So I do need to check and see if my beads will fit on my 18 gauge wire, which they may not. All right, that one does not. Let's see if my seed beads do. In which case we'll switch to 20 gauge here. All right, so the seed beads do fit. So we'll not make anything on the stem in particular pretty, but we will add beads to it. So here I am just going to make my big loop. We're going to make a slightly bigger loop this time, so I am going to use this, my mandrel. Yeah, I guess you can't really put a 90 degree in there because it has to fit between this. Hey, are you not cooperating? All right, here we go. All right, so we're making our circle. So now, if I put the beads on right now, I won't be able to harden it a little. Now, if I harden it too much, it's going to flat out, my beads won't fit. So I do have to use I'm just going to lightly tap that on there. So you'll see I'm no longer on the spool. So at this point now I am going to string my beads on. And I am using size 8 seed beads. And as always, you have to make sure that you're, depending on whether you're using cheap ones, which I am not opposed to because I use them for things all the time, but just realize there'll be inconsistent sizes or may not all fit on your wire if you're using 18 gauge. And I'm just going to go until that circle is full. So, the same thing as putting that spiral on there that we did the other day. But we're just using seed beads instead. It looks like a couple more. Maybe just one more. All right. So I've got the loop part full of beads. I want to make sure I don't get them down below, because then when I wrap, my beads will get caught. Yeah, by putting beads on here, it also adds a little support and keeps it from bending. So there's my ring. Now I could just do a plain toggle. Or we can do a beaded toggle. So let's make our bottom ring first. I'm having a hard time with my tucking. So this is a bigger ring, so I have a little bit of room here. But not a ton. So again, I want to make sure that this fits through there. So I am going to bend my wire like right a little bit below there. It's easier to make it thicker than it is to make it thinner. Okay, so actually I think we'll bend it down a little bit more, and we're just going to make it a longer toggle. All right, it doesn't want to bend, but all right, there we go. All right, so hopefully you can see this. Not kidding. My wire is being very finicky. All right, sorry. So remember, so we want this through there. I want the toggle to go beyond the edge, so I'm going to pick a spot. And I find this easiest to do with flat nose. You can do it with chain nose though. And we are just turning it around. And then we're going to come out the same length on the other side. So I think I may use the not use the eyeball method here. So that's about a 1/2 inch from the edge of that to the middle. So we are going to grab that. And I am going to bend it back. So I'm going to leave a little bit of space in there for the moment, because we are going to try to put beads there. All right, so now I am just, now that this wire is back at the center, I am wrapping it around the stem part. Sure, there's a an official name for that piece, but let me tuck that in. All right. No crimping pliers. I've never thought of using them for actually bending wire, but I suppose you could. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and flatten that. I recommend hammering both sides. And it's not real straight, but all right, let's make sure. All right, so it still fits through there. That's good. So now let's put some seed beads on there. All right, so we're gonna wire up. So I am just gonna pull off some 24 gauge wire. Just wrap a couple times around the end here so that I can to attach the wire. So this one I'm wrapping so it goes through the center. And like I said, this is just to stabilize the wire. So that it'll hold on that end, right? And you can tuck that. Right now, let's put some seed beads on here. Now you could do this when you're wire wrapping beads on here. You could do it one at a time. You know, if you want them to slip in there, so you can go around that way, or you could set them up going, you know, just put a long string. So let me show you. I won't do the whole thing in case. Never mind, actually. All right, so if I just put a bunch on here, and since we're only doing it on one side, you have to decide which is your top or bottom. So we can, you know, one thing is you can put one wire wrap. Here, what I'm gonna do is fill the whole length with the beads, and then we're gonna go wrap backwards, okay? A couple more. All right, so I've got beads basically to go along the length of this wire here. Maybe. Let's go. So wait, for some reason that's going around. All right, so I don't really want to go beyond the end, so I'm going end to end. And then on this opposite end, I am going to wrap around the end here. This is, I consider this speed wrapping, okay? And I am just going to wrap this around the end a couple times just to make sure it's good and firm. So I'm pulling it tight. Okay. And now I am just going to go down and I am going to wrap this behind and in between each bead. Now I didn't leave a whole lot of space, so I'm going to end up with wire. So if you use less beads, and right now I am turning the toggle part just to help myself here. And I'm just going to work my way down here. And if you use 26 gauge, it would show less wire too. There we go. All right, now when you get down to the end, you just need to wrap it around that toggle some more, so hopefully you can get your wire in there somewhere. And I'm actually gonna use my pliers, my other pliers, to make sure I get that in there good and tight. But you know, we don't want to break it because we have done that before. So I'd like to get it at least the second a second wrap. And all right, and I got that nice and tight. And now, since that's coming out the inside, I'm going to clip it close to the inside so it doesn't catch on anything. And I notice I have the starter wire is sticking out here, so let me trim that guy. And tuck, tuck. All right. So, like I said, that's what I consider speed wire wrapping, right? So you just put that on there and then wrap back. And now we have a nice purple toggle clasp to go with our design. So if you draw the use a toggle clasp card and you don't have any toggle clasps, but you have wire, now you know how to make a toggle clasp. So we demonstrated the plain one, and we demonstrated the beaded one. So you can also customize the size. So, you know, if you're using tiny beads, you want a tiny clasp, right? If you're using bigger beads, you want a bigger clasp. But like I said, this way you can add color. So, and just a reminder, these other ones that I made. So this one I did similar to what we did there, but I put the beads on the bar itself, on the top of the bar, before I turned the wire back. But then I did use some 26 gauge to wrap, just to give it a little more strength, because by doing it that way I couldn't harden the wire, right? And then I decided I wanted to add some beads to my outside toggle, and so these I wire wrapped. This is the one at a time wire wrapping, okay, which I decided not to do today, but there you go. So now we have, next time I have to use toggle clasps, I'm going to have to use one of my homemade toggle clasps. So there we go. All right. I know I'm ran over, but thank you for sticking with me since I started late. All right. Those are fun today. So on Friday at noon, my time, mountain time. So Janelle, I think that's 1 o'clock for you, 2 o'clock for Lorraine. We will be making an ornament. Yay. And we are going to use gold. We're going to use yellow. We're going to use stretch cord. So that's our big challenge. And we have to use at least 5 different components. All right. So that's what we're going to do Friday. I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving. And like I said, I will later today, hopefully maybe like right after I get off here, I will get on the website and I will put that coupon on there. So it's thanks20. And again, that code will give you 20% off your order and a free gift. All right. And if you want to order directly from me, you will still get the same thing. It's a surprise free gift. But, you know, it'll have beads in it. I can tell you that much. All right. All right. And I'm going to run the sale through December 8th. I may extend it, but currently December 8th. And the only reason I know that's like a Monday, or it's a Monday, isn't it? Is because I'm going to see my dad for a few days. So we'll not be shipping in there for a few days. All right. So, All right. So all of you have a great Thanksgiving. If you haven't already, please like and follow Desert Cat Creations on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, because all videos, if you want to go back and look at something we did in the past, they will be on YouTube after 30 days. You won't be able to find them on Facebook. So none of the old stuff is on Facebook, but the majority of it is on YouTube. So we got all of this year except for March, and then we have quite a few from last year. But anything that wasn't basic stringing or wire wrapping, I tried to transfer. So anyways, thanks again. I hope you guys all have a great turkey day, and I will see you on Friday.